Hey guys, in this video I am comparing two telephoto lenses. This is the brand new Sony 70-350 that was just released about a month ago versus the Sony 55-210. Let's jump into it and see which one of these two lenses is the better buy. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, an all-in-one platform to create a clean website. So before I jump into the side-by-side comparison, let's take a look at both of these lenses up close. So here they are side by side, and immediately you can tell that one is obviously bigger than the other lens. The older 55-210 has kind of this glossy piano black finish, whereas the new 70-350G lens has the newer textured semi-gloss finish that better matches Sony's new camera bodies. Overall length of the 55-210 is about 1.5 inches shorter than the 70-350, and then as you extend both of these lenses, you'll see fully extended, the 70-350 is still about 1.5 inches longer than the 55-210. There are a few similarities between these two lenses. Obviously, both are telephoto lenses. They are both designed for Sony APS-C mirrorless. They both have electronic connections, fully compatible with autofocus. Both of them have optical steady shot, but there are some pretty noticeable differences as well. First and foremost, with the 55-210, the zoom ring is towards the back and the focus ring is on the front. It's kind of a more traditional setup, whereas with the new 70-350, your focus ring is towards the back and your zoom ring is towards the front. In addition to that, you can see that the G lens here has a couple of switches on the side as well as a button. So the switches here allow you to turn on and off autofocus as well as optical steady shot. There are no such switches or buttons on the 55-210. This button here on the side is for focus hold, which comes in really handy if you are using this sort of lens for portrait work. Around the front, the lens element on the 70-350 is larger than the one on the 55-210, 67mm filter thread versus 49mm filter thread, and then the weight difference between the two. The 55-210 comes in at 336 grams versus the 70-350's 618 grams, so it's almost twice the weight. Here is what the 55-210 looks like mounted on my A6400, and here's the difference in finishes that you can clearly see. Not that this is a bad looking lens, it just doesn't match as nicely as the newer lenses from Sony. It is a pretty compact lens, very easy to move the zoom ring with this. The build quality is better than the 16-50 kit lens, but it's not amazing. It feels like it's made out of mostly plastic and rubber, whereas the 70-350 feels a bit more premium. And here is the 70-350mm lens mounted on my A6400. Again, you can see that the texture and the colors of this lens match the camera body perfectly. It's a little bit bigger, it's noticeably heavier on the camera, it makes the camera a bit more front heavy, but it is a very nice feeling and a very nice looking lens overall. Here it is fully extended, again very smooth zoom ring. It is a bit stiffer than the 55-210. It feels very sturdy and it doesn't feel like it's accidentally gonna bump and move on you. So off the bat, this might not seem like a very fair comparison because I'm comparing a very budget-friendly, budget-feeling lens to what I would describe as a premium lens from Sony. Regardless, let's see how they fare in a head-to-head comparison. So let's jump into the side-by-side photos. So let's get started with the comparison. I'm going to keep all of the new 70-350mm lens images on the left and all of the 55-210mm images on the right. And I did my best to try to match the focal length with both of these lenses. Unfortunately, especially with the 55-210, there aren't a whole lot of markings, so it wasn't always easy to match the focal length. But again, I did my best. So this first shot is just a landscape done at f8. Both of these done at 70mm or as close to 70mm as I could. So you can see 73 here on the 55-210. So let's punch in and see which one of these two images looks sharper. A little bit more detail with the 70-350. Also the colors look a little nicer to me. Not a whole lot of difference otherwise. Let's take a look at the corner here. So here is where we will notice a significant difference. So The 55-210 seems to fall apart here in the corners. You can see the lack of detail in these branches and little leaves here, whereas with the 70-350 you still get quite a lot of detail and contrast. Let's see if that holds true in this side. Less obvious difference, but if you take a look at the small branches here in the brighter parts of the picture, it's a little bit soft here with the 55-210, much sharper with the 70-350. And the same thing holds true in the corners. Look at how soft this grass is versus it's nice and sharp. The last corner here, same story. Look at the grass here. Very soft image with the 55-210, nice and sharp with the 70-350. And this is done at f8, so in theory everything should be nice and sharp. F8 is, for most lenses, the sharpest aperture. There are exceptions to that, obviously, but this is a clear win for the new 70-350. Let's move on to the next one. So this next shot is done at 200mm and 203mm, also done at f8, and I wanted to see if the sharpness remained or got worse or got better with both lenses. So we'll punch into the center. So there's a little bit of chromatic aberration with both of these lenses. You can probably tell that in the image. Right now it's looking like the center is pretty close between the two of them. Let's go to one of the corners here. We're seeing a lot of soft corners with that 55-210, decently sharp with the 70-350. Next corner, same story here. It's not a huge difference, but it is noticeably softer on that 55-210. We should see a difference here as well, and we do. So again, take a look at the small branches, small leaves, a lot of detail here. There's not so much detail with that 55-210. Also, the contrast looks nicer with this 70-350. You can see that the color of the water is nice and blue. So overall, again, victory for that new lens, as I expected. So let's move on to this next one, another landscape, this time done at f4.5. And again, I did my best to get 70mm on that 55-210, but it's at 66. So let's punch in. We should see a little bit of a difference here. It looks like the 55-210 is a little bit sharper in the grass area here, but as you start to move back, the 70-350 is definitely the sharper lens out of the two. And so that's just a difference in focus accuracy. You can see more of the detail in the rocks here. Let's take a look at the corners. Not a huge difference between these two, but I'd still say the 70-350 is a little bit sharper, a little more detailed. As you move out into the edges, interestingly, again, that 55-210 gets really soft. So here's a shot of the water, this time done at 135mm or close to it on both. Stop down to f10 on both lenses. So I tried to focus specifically on this tree and these branches right here. So that's what I'm going to punch into to see which one is sharper. And interestingly here, not a huge difference. Actually, both look pretty decently sharp, and both lenses nailed focus pretty well. Ultimately though, if you look at these branches, especially the small ones here, you can see that there is, in the end, a little bit more detail with that 70-350, less so with the 55-210, but 55-210 didn't do a bad job here. Moving out, you can see again a difference in the colors of the water specifically. Before we go through the rest of these side-by-side photos, let's talk about today's video sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is a simple, easy-to-use, all-in-one platform to build a professional website, online store, or portfolio. Squarespace makes it easy to claim a domain and URL and create a custom website that matches your style. Now, I've used a bunch of different website creation tools in the past, and let me tell you, Squarespace is by far the easiest I've ever used. And one of the nice things that they include is email campaigns. With email campaigns, you can create powerful email content that matches your website. So that means the logo, the products on your website, everything is cohesive and it creates a uniform message. It's a great way to engage and grow your audience. Head over to squarespace.com for your free trial, and once you're ready to launch, you can go to squarespace.com/ArthurR to receive 10% off your purchase of a website or domain. Now let's get back to the comparison. So let's take a look at what happens when you use these lenses for portraits. Both of these done at 200mm and 209, and done at f6.3, which is the maximum aperture on both of these lenses at 200mm. So I have a shot of my wife. She's holding our little boy, but I cut his head off a little bit because he was too short. Let's punch in and see which one of these two nailed sharpness. And this is pretty close. I would say not a huge difference here. Not that I was expecting one to be vastly sharper, but it looks like both of them are decently sharp. They nailed eye focus pretty well. There's not a huge difference between these two. The one thing that you can tell right away is, even with both of these lenses shooting at 6.3, take a look at the 70-350, in particular the background bokeh, and then here is the 55-210. So again, 70-350, 55-210. I'll punch in and maybe go side to side. So again, 70-350, 55-210. So take a look at how much creamier the background is, even though both lenses are being shot at the exact same aperture. Pretty significant. The other thing that you'll notice with the 55-210 is you get a lot of that onion ring bokeh, which some people like, most people don't. But there's a lot of outlining here, whereas with the new lens from Sony, making it look nice and less distracting. Now, I wish that these lenses shot at, f2.8 or f4, because you would get even less of these lines, but at 6.3, it is nice to see the 70-350 does give you better subject separation if you are using these lenses for portrait work. So this next shot is done again at f8. This is at 100mm, or at least I tried, so 99 on the new lens, the 70-350, and 107 on the 55-210. And again, you'll notice that I am very close with the focal length on the new lens, but I seem to miss it with that 55-210 because the labels on that barrel are not very good or accurate. So let's punch into the sign here. Stop sign, definitely sharper with the 70-350. You can see that almost immediately. The stone looks a lot sharper, a lot more clear with the 70-350. Let's take a look at upper corner here. Again, a little bit more detail, a little more sharpness in the roof line even. So overall, you're getting a slight improvement throughout the frame. I mean, it's not huge, but I mean, you can read that DirecTV dish here, whereas it's not really legible here. So overall, I'd say between these two shots, there's maybe a 5% improvement, maybe 5 to 10% improvement in optical quality between these two lenses. But again, the new lens is consistently giving you sharper, better results at every focal length. Moving on to the next one, I wanted to see how both lenses did with flaring, and you actually get some nice sun stars with the 70-350. You don't really get that with the 55-210. So quite a big difference between these two here. You do get flaring though, so nice green large flaring with the 70-350. Let's take a look at this. Both these shots are done at f8, so we should see some sharp corners from both lenses. Chromatic aberration with both lenses, it seems to be a little bit better controlled with the 70-350. Seems like there's a bit more of it with the 55-210. As far as sharpness, again, 70-350 seems like it has the advantage. Here, this corner is surprisingly pretty poor with the 70-350. A lot of chromatic aberration, and same thing with this 55-210. Neither lens really super sharp here. As we move down, let's see. 70-350 is getting better on the edges, and towards the bottom, very significant improvement in sharpness in this corner. This is pretty big. I mean, that's probably a 15%, 20% improvement in sharpness between these two lenses. So here is a little bit of a low light shot. This is done at ISO 5000. Both of these done on a tripod, so f5.6 and about 200 millimeters. You can see I missed it here. So let's punch in and see. So neither lens really masterful in the area of low light, but there is a little bit less grain with that 70-350. If you look at the detail, you can almost read the license plate here on this car. You can't really read it with the 55-210. Let's take a look at the exit sign. Again, sharper here, a bit soft there. And towards the edges, same story that we've been seeing from the beginning. So not surprising here, the 70-350 is the clear winner between these two. And take a look at the difference in grain. That's pretty significant considering both of these lenses are being shot with the exact same settings. So although neither one of these lenses is really a good low light lens, the 70-350 with its combination of better, more accurate autofocus, a better OSS system, I think, better coatings on the lenses themselves, performs a little bit better in low light situations. So that is it for the side-by-side comparison between these two lenses. Ultimately, I knew the 70-350 was going to come out ahead, and it certainly did not disappoint. As you would expect, this lens comes in at $1,000 is the MSRP, currently on sale for $900, versus this lens, which is right around $200. So quite a big price difference between the two. And my recommendation is this: if you don't use a telephoto lens all that often, you can pick up a 55-210 on the used market for around $100, $150. Keep it in your arsenal and use it sparingly. But if you use a telephoto lens on a regular basis and you want something that's going to deliver consistent, sharp results from the center of the frame to the corners of the frame, there's no comparison. The 70-350 is the better lens out of the two, and it is definitely the one that I would recommend if you're looking for the ultimate, not super duper expensive telephoto lens for your APS-C sized Sony mirrorless camera. So that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're interested in buying either one of these, check out the links down below. As usual, thank you guys for all of your likes, comments, and support. Stay tuned for more, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.